put away my beef stew. Okay. My light source is blocking me out. Okay, let's get started. Bear with me as I think many people here in Brookline are. I'm struggling with some type of terrible virus. It's not COVID, but it is a coronavirus. It's called the common cold. So, but anyways, so let's get started. Let's want to call the roll, or I'll call the roll. Carol Goodman, you're here, Carol.
Here.
Stephen Hyken,
Here.
Carlos Orhio. Mike, you're here too, Carlos. Okay. Michael Roper.
Here.
Steve Sousa. I don't see him.
Yes.
Marilyn Tressel.
They're both not here tonight.
Okay. And Bernard Green is here also. So let's start off with the minutes. I think we have 3 sets of minutes, including probably the most important ones, and that is last month's minutes. Any corrections or edits to those minutes? Okay, seeing none, I move. And does anyone want to, because they weren't at a meeting, take one of the minutes out to be voted separately?
Yes, I need to abstain on the ones last month because I was at the Chestnut Hill
Okay.
West meeting.
So, so I move approval of the November 10 and December 8th minutes of the Fisher Hill West Study Committee. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Let's just raise our hands. Is that okay, Maria?
All right.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, they're approved. I move approval now of the January 12, 2026 Fisher Hill West Study Committee minutes. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, any abstentions? 1. Okay, any noes? None. Okay, let's move on to the status of our state grant contract. Maria, tell us where we are, if anywhere, with that contract coming back from the state.
Right. So as you know, this was before the select board on January 27th. It had been on the agenda for January 13th, but there was a board member who had heard about some concerns from a member of the public and was out of the country. And so we delayed it 2 weeks to make sure that we had a full select board, to make sure all the questions were addressed. The select board did vote to accept the grant. And I believe that Chaz Carey, the town administrator, was authorized to sign it. And now we're just waiting for the state to countersign. Once that happens, I can send out the RFPs for the site planning consultant and the shuttle consultant. You know that we do have a schedule, which I'm happy to flip on the screen. We're just like a few weeks off, so that 2-week thing kind of threw us off a little bit. But I think that we should be able to rally around by, instead of the beginning of the month, the RFPs go out, they'll go up before the end of the month. Okay. Just really quickly, because Carlos wasn't here, I'm just going to quickly show folks. This was the kind of like the timeline. I'm just doing these in sort of like 4-month chunks so that you're oriented, accept the grant. And then around this time, we'd like to do a little bit of just have some courteous informational only sessions for P13. Wherever you see P14, it means P13 and 14. Town meeting members and neighborhood folks and abutters, just to let them know there's going to be a press release going out that the select board accepted the grant. We're sending out RFPs. The selection committee, which consists of this committee, George Cole, Charlie Simmons in public facilities, Karen, myself, there will be a lot of activity once we start getting these responses in to select the site planning consultant. As for the shuttle, I'm going to be working with technical resources, engineers, that is, in the transportation division regarding that selection committee. So we do want to get a press release out just to do things at, a community-wide level, but that's something that we don't want neighbors to feel blindsided by. So we'll just have really small group meetings. We can't violate open meeting law, so we can have up to one community member participate. And what I've done is I'm just going to stop sharing here in just a second. When the RFPs come in, we'll do more introductory communiques with various boards, town meeting members, and community groups. In the meantime, I'm trying to get ambassadors for these different community groups. They don't take the place of formal surveys. It's just part of the trust and community building and helping people feel that they're very close to the process and not isolated. And then really April is when we get into our pre-planning phase where the consultant is actually providing some deliverables. And then we begin the phase 1 community visioning. And Carlos, you have a question?
Yes, I'm just going to pose the same question I emailed this morning or this afternoon, which was, I think, these small groups, they're little, I think it would be much easier if we could have two, for example, town meeting members, two committee members attend the meetings along with staff. And that would be, easy to do by just posting the meeting on the calendar. I know that there was some concern that that would bring more people than you think, but I think there's nothing wrong with sort of full transparency on
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you unmute?
Yes, there's nothing wrong with full transparency on what we do. So I think there's no harm if more people show up to any of these meetings. And I think it's a better process. So I'm just throwing it out there.
So Maria, were these meetings going to be in public buildings or at people's houses?
It really depends on what folks want. I really need some contact information to talk to the neighborhood associations involved and just see what people want to do. And I really wanted to be, if they want to have some community space, if they wanted to have it, in a condo, we can do several things. And honestly, when it comes to public meetings, I travel light. I will go anywhere. And so I just wanted to make it convenient for the parties involved.
Right.
Certainly Zoom is a natural, convenient thing, but I didn't want to prevent people from having in person if they felt more comfortable doing that.
Yeah, I think in person is probably the best. So I'm sorry, I'm a little behind on some things. Town meeting or town council's position is that for the purposes of the open meeting law, only one member can attend?
Yeah, if there's more than one, then he wants to see it posted. So that would make it open to the
reason
general public.
being, did they say why?
I talked to Jonathan Simpson and he just really felt like it's important to err on the side of caution when it comes to open meeting law.
That's not caution. I'll talk to Jonathan, okay?
Bernard, that if there, it has been in the past several decades probably, that if there's no quorum present, it's not a meeting. Now our town council has a different idea about it, but I think just one person is just not it's not enough. And so that's why I'm suggesting, and if we, and if the solution is to post it on the calendar, we post it on the calendar. We don't lose anything by doing that.
Yeah. If it's
he doesn't want them to be working groups. They're being very strict about working groups. So, it is.
It's not a working group. It's just a listening group.
I've made that clear. I've really advocated for you. I tried to say, if we could have like 3 committee members, that would be less than a quorum. And, he felt that could be perceived as a working group. So,
but the working groups from the housing production plan were never posted. I was on them. Steve was on them.
Yeah, well, I think Bernard, if you want to speak directly to Jonathan Simpson, you're certainly entitled to.
I mean, we
Okay.
went through this with the Pierce Building Committee, and, we have working group meetings all the time. We don't deliberate.
But they're
and
open
most
to
of the
they're
time,
open to the public. And I just feel like if this is at someone's house or condo complex, we're not going to just open it up to the general public.
yeah,
So,
no, I agree with that.
I think if you could, folks, if you could just recognize that there's probably going to be more than one abutter meeting, if you could all take turns and then come together and take notes. I just don't think that anyone's trying to hide anything from the public or from one another. This is not about a discussion where anyone's deciding anything. It's just
Right.
people
I
have,
mean, we
if
might
I could
think
just
that,
say, people
but the
want to,
butters might not think that. And so
abutters are,
that's why
abutters,
we might think that because we know in this group, and we've just heard you say that. But if word comes out and the butters start to wonder why there was a meeting and no one and they weren't invited or whatever it was, it's just it can get a little difficult to
well,
explain. I
you
think the
can,
solution is if you do it on Zoom, or if you do it at, you could do it at the Pierce. I mean, you can do it at, I call it the Pierce because that's Pierce, Fisher Hill, Pierce. Sorry, Pierce at Fisher Hill. But I mean, there's plenty of room at the school to do it at the actual building, which is close
are you
to,
opposed to more than one meeting for abutters? You just want one meeting?
no, you can have 3 meetings if you want. But I mean, we have a location which is right next to the butters, which
Right.
is at the school.
No one's ruling it out.
Right.
No
So
one's
it doesn't have to be in a private place. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be in a, condo association, or it doesn't have to be in someone's house. It can be just right next to the location if
Okay.
that's what the butters is.
Yeah, I just feel like we're going to make it very accessible to neighbors and abutters. If people can't go to one meeting, we can have several. We can have office hours. We try to slice it and dice this in so many ways that people just understand from a person, not just an email, what the process is. That's really all this is about. It's not
Yeah.
about lobbying for anything. It's just making sure that people can let their hair hang down and just not be, they're going to hear and see a lot of ideas from
Okay.
townwide that could make them feel a little overwhelmed about how this property could be used. And we just want to emphasize this is a due diligence
Right.
process. It's a real estate
Okay,
study. That's all.
Steve has his hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Bernard. I also would opt for maybe more than one committee member. I'm sort of arguing to get myself included in these necessarily, but my experience has typically been that 3 members of a committee is okay before you get into open meeting law problems. But I would agree with Carlos that at least 2. I'm thinking of maybe it's a different context, but like personnel meetings where there's a review of a staff person, you always want to have 2 people other than the staff member at that meeting. So there at least is some, there's 2 different kind of eyes and ears in the process. And so I think having 2 committee members at a minimum. And I'm just looking at this. I know I had a brief conversation with you about this. I really don't know why it is necessary to have a meeting with only town meeting members from precincts 13 and 14 first, and then abutters and others. I think, some of the town meeting members from precincts 13 and 14 are probably abutters and constituents and members of, I think there's an overlap in those groups. And I don't know why we would have 2 meetings instead of one meeting that combines all of those stakeholders. I mean, I think I worry about a situation where people can get meetinged out. We have too many meetings and people just get
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah, so, part of this is courtesy. So I have another zoning study, and I've met with the town meeting members first in the affected 2 precincts. And they were, it was important for all of them to get up to speed. Some were not up to speed. They don't want to learn about it at the same time their constituents are learning about it. If a constituent were to go to their town meeting representative and the town meeting member maybe doesn't know some of the things that we're discussing now, I don't want to put an official in that position. Also, when it comes to an approach for, say, a a session for neighbors and abutters, I rely on town meeting members to give me some valuable suggestions about how to approach it. They know their constituents in those precincts a lot better than I do. And I honestly, I've learned a lot from town meeting members about how to approach things with a certain tone or wording, or, just things that wouldn't occur to me. So, let them tell me they just want to have one big, session. I'm extending the courtesy. I'll do 70 meetings if you want, but I'm just extending the courtesy to town meeting members, and they can decide what they feel comfortable with.
Hey,
That's all.
Steve, you have your hand still, have your hand up?
I'll take my hand down. Okay, I made my point.
Let me suggest something. Meeting with town meeting members as a courtesy, I think that's very important. And there's no reason why committee members need to be in those initial meetings. You can meet with them just to alert them to the fact that we're then having a meeting of abutters and everyone else. And while you're meeting with the town meeting members, you can get their ideas, suggestions, and sort of answer any questions they have. I mean, that's one way we could do this, I think, to address what you're trying to accomplish, which I think is very important. What do other people think of that? Michael, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks, Bernard. I mean, I think we're overthinking this. The
Right.
idea of this, the idea of this was to, when we were talking about community outreach, we recognized the importance of that community outreach, and we've been at this process for some time now, and we haven't had really a lot of success on that in that approach. So we wanted to have preliminary discussions, and I agree with Maria that town meeting members are a valuable constituency, and they should be involved as much and as often as possible, especially at this stage. But it's also practice for the message, right? Delivering what we're, that we're we're going on to this process, and we're just still in the infancy, it feels like, without having selected consultants. And I think that it's more important to have the opportunity than it is to try to double click and put it under a microscope the people that are involved and try to socially engineer this. Let's have a couple of meetings. I'm an abutter and a member of this meeting. If I have to go and represent myself as just an abutter, then and not to to make Jonathan feel comfortable, happy to do that. But I just feel like this is really being overthought. Let's have a couple of meetings, either at one of the schools or up on Fisher Hill with at where Pierce is right now, and see how it goes and take notes. And I agree with Steve 100%. There needs to be more than one committee member there, so that we can take that back to the rest of the group and talk about lessons learned.
Carol?
Oh, I agree with you, Michael, 100%. I think it's very important that the committee be visible at these meetings. I don't care how many, but I think it's really important that our town meeting members and the abutters and the other people who attend the meetings see the committee and know that there are, citizens working on this. So I argue that, and the same thing, Michael, and Carlos too, we can go as abutters if the open meeting law is in jeopardy. But I too think that our visibility is really important.
Again, the way to solve the open meeting law is just by posting the meeting. There's, you post the meeting, you describe it as what it is, and that's it.
I still like the idea of, and I think just Maria, just getting the pulse of town meeting members before we have a big meeting. And also as a courtesy, let them know what's going on and that we're gonna, have a meeting with the butters. I mean, does anyone think that that's a bad idea?
There are a couple of town meeting members in this meeting right now.
Yeah.
Carlos and
I think
Carla.
it's redundant. I think you just go with it, Bernard. I think that you're going to go through the effort and take Maria's time, respect to her time and everything else. Let's just we're going to need to do this for a lot more over the next 18
So
months. So
you're
let's,
suggesting one big meeting?
no, I think that it should be at least 2 meetings, but that they be open. And like Carlos said, I mean, interject a little common sense here. Just post it on the calendar, then nobody has to worry about it.
Okay, is that the consensus of this meeting?
Makes sense to me.
Will town meeting members be upset that they're not getting first dibs? I'm not a present town meeting member, so it would never upset me, but I don't know about others.
Let me just talk to Jonathan again about just having, less than a quorum. Let me just talk to him again, or maybe Bernard, you and I can talk to him.
Okay,
Okay, so we don't have to speak for town council. I'd really love to give abutters and neighbors enough airtime. When you have a general public, that means that other people can talk and maybe talk over neighbors and abutters. And that's what we're trying to do here, is just really give neighbors and abutters just some space for themselves to really not feel overwhelmed by what's coming their way. I mean, it's going to be a really very vast, comprehensive and expansive options that are looked at. And I've already met with some really upset abutters. They just didn't think it was going to be this expansive. So I'm just getting a reading of some people who are immediate abutters, and I just want to be sensitive to that. All right. Bernard, does
Okay,
that work
so-
for you?
anything works for me. I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way of making sure that town meeting members are brought into the process and don't feel left out or, in second place or anything. So,
Okay.
Fran, please put down your hand.
Okay. I think that's pretty much all I have to discuss right now. I think, Bernard, there is a draft letter that I've composed. I've run it by Marilyn and Michael for starters. And I think that it would be helpful if that introductory email to neighbors and abutters came from you, introducing me as the staff person who will be managing the study with the committee. So maybe we can just talk offline.
Sure, no problem. We can get that out as soon as possible.
Okay.
Is other than other businesses, nothing else on the agenda? Why don't we take public comments? I see at least one person's itching to speak. Fran, you have your opportunity now.
Hi, I just wanted to make a comment as a town meeting member and also as somebody who is involved in the MBTA plan that Maria ran, that when town meeting members are in the meeting with the abutters as a first time thing, there was an intimidation sometimes by the abutters that their town meeting members were speaking. And I just think that it's sort of respect for both groups to let the town meeting members have a preview. And then if they want to be there or not, they can sit in the back, because those meetings should be with the abutters. And that's all.
Thank you,
What do
Fran.
people think of that idea?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have. I don't think that the discussion was really of, if it's with town meeting members or if it's with the butters or whatever it is. I think the discussion that we were having was that we should have more than one member
Yeah, yeah.
posted. And then
I think what Fran is saying is that it's good to give town meeting members sort of a advance.
yeah, we agree. I
notice
think we agree with that.
and allow abutters to have a separate meeting.
We agree with that. I think we agree with that. I think we just have, when you post it, you just have to, you just emphasize that this is an introduction to town meeting members. If we're posting it, if the whole thing with more than one is an open meeting law violation, which is ridiculous.
Well, I guess, my suggestion was that Maria do all the meetings with town meeting members preliminarily, and of course, town meeting members will be invited to the open meeting. But, Anne, you have your hand up? Can't hear you.
There. I was unable to attend last meeting because I was taking care of my 9 and my 12-year-old grandsons. And I did email Maria and mentioned again, I know I focus on the pool, but I really focus on the voice of children. And it was mentioned that the parents can attend and speak on behalf of their children, but parents are overwhelmed. Both parents are working, they're trying to get home, they're trying to feed their kids, they're trying to get them to bed. So when you have town meeting members, and many people in Fisher Hill are older, so when you have abutters on Fisher Hill, and then we have committee members here, then there isn't the representative voice for the children in Brookline to be able to have their first and only outdoor pool. And in all of these discussions, to figure out a way to be democratic and give a voice to the children, because the indoor pool is not at all pleasant, especially in the summertime. You cannot take a child and make them go to the indoor pool. So I'm going to continue to make that point, that we need to have ways that the children can speak. Because if you ask a child, do you want an outdoor pool, yes or no? Do you want a then 1 acre area that has a lap pool and a shallow pool for children? They would all vote in favor of the pool and not any of the other choices for Fisher Hill. So thank you very much. I'm going to keep making the same point. I want them to be represented. Thanks. Bye.
Okay. No, we should find a way, but if you ask a kid whether he wants ice cream, he's going to say yes. Right. So that's not the criteria. But, if we can find a way of giving children, and we're talking, I assume you're talking about elementary school kids, for example, at the at the Pierce, from the Pierce School.
It would just be interesting to let them have a voice. And of course, you're going to ask them, do you want ice cream or do you want candy? Yes or no. But do you want public housing versus a pool? They're going to want a pool.
Well,
do you want indoors versus outdoors? They want to be outdoors. So it's not ice cream, yes or no. Let them have a voice. Figure out a way for the children of Brookline.
We'll figure that out. Yes. Okay. Anything else?
If we're down to other business, I just wanted to mention to other members of the committee, I sent a note to Maria and Bernard about a month ago. I was just looking at, I'm already getting to design. I was looking at the site, in aerial photographs and looking at the existing parking lot that serves the Reservoir Park, which has like a one-way driveway in and back out, and it has a total of only 22 parking spaces. And it occurred to me as an architect and urban designer that by expanding that parking lot just a little bit, and if you look at an aerial photograph, at some point after this meeting, if you expand that parking lot to include the area where there's a row of cars on the Fisher Hill West site that are parked head into near the property line. So expand that parking lot from 72 feet wide to 120 feet wide, which uses just the edge of the existing Fisher Hill West site. You could almost quadruple the amount of parking that can be provided. You have 2 full bays of parking that would serve both Reservoir Park and whatever uses we come up with on the Newbury West site. Obviously, there would have to be more parking than that, but it's just a little kind of edge strategy that I think would make a lot of sense to keep in mind as we move forward.
Yeah, good idea.
2 cents.
Carlos?
Yes. So this came to me the other day when Chaz, town administrator, was presenting to the advisory committee a forecast of the budget and the coming years. So I think it would be interesting for everybody on this committee to attend next Tuesday's presentation of the budget, and which includes this year's budget, but also sort of like a forecast of the next year's, and see how. Just think about it in the background is like, where is this going to fall where at what point in the future. Because, you know, we have the capital investments that are the next, you know, 30 years or so, and they're shown which ones are coming up. This, of course, is not anywhere in there. And we also have, you know, the override coming and all these other things. So you know, it's not good news, but I think it's good for people to sort of see where we are financially and when this could happen in the future. Personally, I'm not seeing it anytime in the next 10 years financially, because I don't see more debt coming in on, but who knows?
And you know, it depends on the scope of what we do, so.
So, well, yes, but none of it will be absorbed by the CIP. I've asked that question to the town administrator, and he doesn't think that any of it would be absorbed by the present CIP. And when you think that there's still one school that hasn't been renovated in decades, and is the busiest school right now, which is Baker, not on the CIP, it puts things in perspective. I think. I don't know. I may be completely wrong about all this.
Well, we should all think about, you know, potential issues or problems like that.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's end the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Maria, for the presentation. Bye.
Good night.